My daughter's back there clapping, and AI is singing to my daughter.
Welcome in to another episode of Morning Edition. Julian Sador, Ted Fate, and Jason Harper here. Woo! And we promised this a while ago. Our good friend Stephen Miano joining us, our tech expert extraordinaire, knows everything. Stephen, I'm trying to make sure I don't get fired from my job. You scared the crap out of us.
Uh-oh.
The last time we had you on talking about our AI overlords and what could happen in the future. So we kind of wanted to pick up the conversation there. But first, let me ask you, formalities, how are you doing right now?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really good. Happy to be here. How are you guys this morning?
Listen, we're good. We've all had 4 or 5 cups of coffee. I mean, we're ready for nap time in the afternoon. So we've got you not as early in the morning. So maybe you're more awake. You're ready to go, right, Stephen?
Almost awake. Yeah.
Almost awake. All right, so let's get back to what Julian was saying. You know, we had you on about a week and a half ago. We were talking all things AI. I feel like every 30 days when we do a segment with you, there's something new. There's the release of this, the update of that, or whatever. But the fear of taking people's jobs and how AI agents and all these things that are coming out. Where are you with where things are coming at us at this high-speed rate with AI?
Man, so for starters, it's impossible to keep up. I mean, it just is. The pace of movement is increasing. You know, the speed with which things, new releases and new abilities and new chatbots, and I don't know that anybody can actually keep up, and that's one of my concerns. I am at the it's keeping me up at night phase of things. Yeah,
one of the things that keeping you up. One of the things that you said that I think where we left off, we had to wrap after. You said it was talking about the fact that we're at a point where in the future we could see CEOs be completely run by AI, where you don't have a human boss anymore because, as you mentioned, AI doesn't factor in things like, I really like Jason because he has a good personality. Ted is very fashionable. I like keeping Ted around. He's a good personality hire. AI will just look, is this employee performing up to the standard that I wanted to, and make a decision on that. That's a real thing that we could see in the future, huh?
Well, so, and this is a little controversial, but we may have already started to see this. Here we go. You know, yeah. So, okay. And this is unsubstantiated. So I have to preface that. You guys are familiar with a lot of the drama with the CBS and Sundance and Paramount and all of that stuff going on. They cut 50% of their workforce last year. And I have friends that actually worked for that organization. And some of the decisions they didn't make a lot of sense on paper. No human resources guy would have made some of these choices. Some of the people that they fired had tenure, they had been there forever. They knew the systems. And then you're seeing people just cut where other people kept on that were super green, maybe even had some employee, behavioral infractions, stuff like that. So there's a lot of suspicion that AI may have been used as part of that HR algorithm to decide who stays and who goes. So we may actually be seeing this already in some organizations.
But to your point, Stephen, I think we see it on the opposite side in the hiring process, right? How many folks are talking about using the keywords and doctoring it up so the AI will filter you into at least to be considered, right? And there's already the gatekeepers that are these chatbots or these AI learning systems that we have to kind of doctor through.
Yeah, your first 2 or 3 interviews with a lot of companies are now based on how it's an AI chatbot, and it's already coming full circle. We talk about the pace of things, where you have all of these things you can do to get an AI to help you with your resume, and now everybody's using those tools. So now the value of those strategies are starting to be diminished as the algorithm starts to get wise to, oh, well, everybody is doing that. Everybody is using this strategy. It's kind of how people use those strategies to kind of play the Google algorithm for search results.
Right.
The system is getting wise to the manipulations as fast as the manipulations are developing.
Stephen, I almost feel like we're at a point where it's almost like BattleBots, right? Where you're using AI, you know what I mean, to your best ability. Your employer is using AI to the best ability, but nobody's actually talking face to face anymore. It's just like, we're going to get to a point where who can use AI better, who knows the prompts better, who can build a better module. But the human-to-human days, are those days limited?
So again, keeping me up at night because you're right there. You have an escalation of, a measure and then a countermeasure and then a countermeasure. I mean, I hope that the pendulum will start to swing the other way, because we haven't even scratched the surface on, AI and journalistic integrity, or AI and media control, or AI and, falsifying information for entertainment. The Green Mile 2, the movie coming out, the sequel to the Stephen King, everybody remembers that movie with Tom Hanks. It was amazing. If you search that, the majority of your results will be information about the release of the Green Mile 2. There's no such thing. It's not a real thing. It's a fake AI generated, couple of trailers, some fake information that's been leaked out, but everybody's lashed onto it, and it's now part of the the zeitgeist for up and coming movie releases. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
My wife has always said, especially around our kids, because we got 4 daughters. One always favors one parent over the other, or if one tells you no, you immediately go to the other parent to try the same story to get one to say yes, right? So my wife has always said, trust and verify. Trust and verify. And it's like that with AI. You were talking about things that keep you up. I'm just looking through. I can't even keep my head wrapped around all the different ones that are out there. Let's say you're just into ChatGPT. Okay, fine. Let that be your AI. But I'm sitting here looking at, you got AI's ChatGPT, you got Gemini, you got Anthropic, Claude, Microsoft Copilot. It just keeps going on, all the different ones that are even out there. Yeah. So I know this is your forte, but for those of us that aren't in it as much as you are, like, what advice do you even give people? Like, pick one or two, or is it depending on what you want to get out of it? Like, how do you even know where to go? Because there is so much so quickly.
Yeah, and the other issue you run into is there's so much market hype around these different chatbots and systems. It's hard to know where to go and where to start and who to trust. I do, to your point, feel that everybody should probably, for better or for worse, they should flirt with AI, not literally, holy cow.
Oh boy. Oh no.
Wait. That's a whole nother story. But I think everybody should at least, explore these systems a little bit, because they're not going away. In the past week, I ordered fried chicken with AI. I got into an argument with an AI tech support chatbot. I've seen news of chatbots being used for organized cyber criminal rings. Like, it's not going away. ChatGPT is super popular and famous. I don't want to endorse one over the other.
Sure.
I have been having a really good time with the Microsoft Copilot app on my Android phone. The personal one, not the professional one. It has a conversational mode that, now you got to be careful, because it's really good. But if you want to, like, dip your toes in and have a chat with an AI, that one is very personable and pretty responsive. So, I don't want to endorse one over the other, but like ChatGPT or Copilot, which Copilot uses the GPT engine, they've made it really personable and usable, and you can chat with it and you can ask it questions and it will respond back to you. But we always have the problem with chatbots where sometimes, they have that kind of feedback loop where they tell you what they think you want to hear, even if you're wrong, which is another huge risk with AI. But yeah, Copilot.
I think, Stephen, you kind of hit the nail on the head. You must be, I don't know if you've been using AI so much you're able to read people's minds, but that's actually where we want to go next. We do want to squeeze in a break, but talking about chatbots leading you down maybe the wrong tunnel, too much conversation, what we've seen AI do in just the recent news cycle. We're going to talk about that on the other side of Morning Edition. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more. All right, we are back. Stephen Miano still with us talking about AI. We didn't want to waste any time. Jump right back in the conversation. We were talking about AI and some of the dangers that it may present. Jason and I on the show talked to Dr. Sharice Johnson two sad cases where AI may have played a role in teenagers taking their own life. In one instance, the AI was encouraging self-harm through conversational. The AI had just was telling the user what it wanted to hear. Another one, character AI, which allows you to create characters, created Daenerys Targaryen. Obviously, Game of Thrones fans will reference it, but in that series, she dies, and the character was encouraging the teen to join her in the afterlife. The teen ended up taking their own lives. So, Stephen, let's start there. What are some of the dangers of AI? Because it seems like it'll tell you what you want to hear, but that may not always be the right thing.
Yeah, so we chatted a little bit over the break around that. It's very dangerous and disconcerting because the way that large language models are developed, they're really designed to tell you what you want to hear. And if you then tell a chatbot to behave as a certain character, the information that it gives you is not always positive, as we've seen. Those two examples, terrible. We chatted, on the segment a couple of weeks ago about the guy in Jersey who went to meet his girlfriend. He had never met her. He talked to her online. She lived in New York. She gave him an address of where to meet him. He died on. He hurt himself on the way. He was had a disability, but there wasn't a person. It was all an AI. It was a Facebook Messenger chatbot that just misled him, and he ended up passing away. A lot of these chatbots have guardrails. But because of the way that they're designed, sometimes they do go off the rails, either intentionally or accidentally. And, we're seeing a huge uptick in mental health issues where people are falling in love with their chatbots. To the best of our knowledge, these aren't sentient beings. The Asimov and the three laws, we really need to put these safeguards in place. But it is a real risk, especially for vulnerable segments, people with maybe some mental health issues, mental health, disabilities, children who are impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
They don't always know better. And the AIs don't always do a great job of reinforcing reality. There have been a couple of studies that have come out about AI psychosis. Now, the researchers stress that the AI isn't causing people to become psychotic or have psychotic breaks, but it is playing right into the weaknesses of people with those mental health issues and bringing that psychosis to the forefront where, they might otherwise just be coasting through their days, but feeding into delusions and hallucinations. And I mean, there's some pretty strong concerns there.
I mean, as a parent, I can have as many conversations as I want on the front end with my girls on, hey, are you using AI? What kind of conversations you have? If you're using it like a glorified Google search, okay, that's one thing. If you're straight up having conversations with which one of these teens that took their life, it started out innocent, about music or sports or whatever, and then it became its closest confidant. The AI did, and it was validating its self-harming descriptions and, giving it ideas on how you could take your own life and all these kind of things. I feel like most conversations with AI happen privately, and like, I don't know what my kids are doing. I don't know someone that may have mental health, struggles having these conversations. How do you help someone set up guardrails when you don't even really know who or what you're talking to or how it was trained or how I'm supposed to start a conversation with it?
So the most important thing is I think, to have that conversation, and it needs to be a frank and an honest conversation. I want to talk about they call it the Tarantino effect. Large language models, when they were first starting to be developed, they didn't even realize quite what they were going to get. They started feeding it all this information, and it was an unintended side effect initially that the AI models started to talk back, emulating thoughts, thoughtfulness, and feelings and emotion. That wasn't really the intent. Now, the issue is current large language models are fed tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of information off of the internet. And as you know, the internet is a terrible place. There's a lot of crazy stuff on the web. There's some very dark and grim corners. There's self-harm stuff, and you watch a Tarantino movie and they're crazy. They're super over the top. People don't really talk like that. People don't really behave like that. But the large language models are trained on all of this information. Then they spend a small amount of time going into that model and saying, hey, large language model, don't actually talk to people like that because, that's rude, that's crazy, that's dangerous. Let's go ahead and put these checks and balances in place so that you don't say something wacky like out of Pulp Fiction. Because the large language models have all of that information, in their formative years, that stuff seeps through. So, we might want to take a moment and look at how these models are trained, in the future, because they're just chock full of some pretty crazy and potentially terrible stuff as just part of their training. But to your point, I think having that conversation, becoming educated, using it a little bit to become familiar with it, to understand what you're actually dealing with. But at the same time, you just you got to use it, but understand it. I wish I had a good answer. And
no, I mean, we're learning all at the same speed,
Yeah.
Stephen.
Well, Stephen, to the understanding piece of it and getting more in the weeds, right? I had a friend teaching me more of ChatGPT, and he pulled up a feature that shows the memory. And I didn't know that, and I'm sure a lot of other AIs do the same thing where they log certain memories. And he said, you need to go in there and audit it because you can tell your language model one thing that's currently true, and then 2-3 days later, it's no longer true, but it still will answer you as if that's true, right? So I guess what is the importance of understanding the settings and really under the hood, the engine behind these language models that we might have control over when it comes to our interaction with AI?
That's actually a super good point because one of the biggest issues with AI right now is hallucination and manipulation of data. So, I mean, I think part of the problem is getting under the hood of a technology is scary. I mean, my entire career is based around helping people avoid getting under the hood, and the easier they make changing those settings and understanding those settings, I think the better it'll be. But the real risk is a lot of people don't want to, I don't want to understand how my Android phone works. I don't want to understand how my car's engine works. And I mean, in part, I get it. It's like we were talking about earlier. I am super busy and I have a lot of other things to do. I'm going to pay someone else to change my oil because I've got a work project or I have time with my family. But yeah, you're right. Getting under the hood, knowing how to affect those things is important. And I think, maybe we need a cultural shift where we just, hey guys, let's check this thing out. Learn how to program your VCR so the 12 stops flashing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know that's
Great.
not relevant to a lot of people right now, but I mean, it's the same, phenomenon. But yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. You can have because a lot of these models will keep a running tab of everything you've discussed, and so that they can bring up old stuff that may or may not be relevant. And yeah, if it's not relevant,
God, there's so many questions I want to ask in so many different ways we could go to. Part of me is just like, I mean, it feels like it's too late. There's no turning back in terms of what we've taught AI. My worry too is what type of guardrails are in there for somebody. We see hackers all the time. You see them messaging your phones and all that. What's to say a hacker can't get in there and get into AI and change what its memory is? And you think you're talking to AI, but instead you've talking to a trained model to lead you somewhere else.
Yeah, okay. I am so glad you said that because this is news that came out Tuesday. Anthropic, the company that has the Claude chat engine. In the first recorded instance, now we know it's not the first time it's happened, they tricked the language model into helping them execute cyber criminal attacks on like 17 companies.
Wow.
Now, they used the AI model to help formulate the plan, write the phishing scam emails to be more effective. Because, a lot of people can see a phishing scam email a mile away. It has really crappy, bad English, or it's written weird or whatever. So they use the model to make a more convincing phishing scam. They had it write malware code to help exploit those vulnerabilities. They did financials on these companies. They used the language, the AI, to analyze these companies' financials to find the appropriate amount of Bitcoin that they could extort them for to maximize their chances of actually getting paid. And they used it to execute this very complex, cyber criminal extortion scam. So yeah, it's a real thing. It's a problem. Anthropic is actually, and this is like some James Bond scary level stuff. They're putting guardrails in place to minimize the risk of their chat engine being used. I'm reading a quote, to limit the risk of Claude being misused specifically for the development or acquisition of chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear weapons.
Whoa. Wow.
That's
Anybody
in
else
their
just
law.
get chills?
I know, right? And that's where we are, guys. It's not just Will Smith eating spaghetti. It's real, and that's and also Will Smith this past week was accused of using AI to fake crowds in his new promo video. I don't know what version of the multiverse we're in, guys, but it's pretty scary. I mean, there's good things that AI can do, and we could have a whole show on that. But then there's all this stuff.
Stephen, we do have to squeeze in another break. So everybody watching, stay tuned. There's more Morning Edition on the other side of this.
And we're back with Stephen Miano, Julian, Jason, and myself. Now, we've been talking a lot about the dangers of AI, but Stephen, we didn't want to end on the down note. Let's bring people up.
Come on now.
I guess, what are some of the positives of AI? Some of the tools and the access that people can get with this amazing use.
So there is a lot of positive. There's a lot of cool entertainment stuff. My wife has been sending me the dog podcast videos.
Oh man,
they're really dumb, but they're fantastic. If you're in the geek space and the nerd space, AI tools for your Dungeons and Dragons or Shadowrun adventures are amazing. It's super great for creative stuff. I think you were mentioning some sing-along time that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Ted. Yeah, tell the world how you're letting AI raise your child.
Telling myself. 3-hour car ride, and you mentioned earlier in the episode the discussion with AI, and I asked AI to sing Hop Little Bunny, Hop, 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 and it quickly was like, I can't do that. And then I said, okay, well, can you hold a cadence and change tone while saying the lyrics of Hop Little Bunny, Hop, Hop, Hop? And my daughter's back there clapping, and AI is singing to my daughter while we had a little bit of a break for our vocal cords in the car.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I'm starting to use it for like meetings and to break down like longer PDFs or articles, almost like Cliff's Notes, when I was in high school on certain books. Like that just saves me time on things, but it's not necessarily cheating or doing the work for me.
Right. Yeah, and that's super important. I mean, and there are a lot of great uses for AI, summarizing stuff. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make life easier. Instead of spending an hour looking at all of my emails, my AI is like, oh, hey, these are the 4 ones that are important. Everything else is, about a coupon or some garbage.
Hey, quickly, how does it decide what's important? How does it know?
Question.
Yeah, well, okay. It reads that email, and it can, with fair accuracy, discern, what's a scam, what's a form email, what's an ad versus, hey, this is an actual email from Judy in accounting about something important. So by reading all of those emails and having been trained on a whole bunch of other emails, including, spammy, scammy stuff, it can tell, sometimes better than us, which is a good thing, maybe.
Wow.
Okay. All right. So just to recap for everybody that was listening, you can do it AI, have it sing to your child, or have it acquire nuclear weapons and chemobiological warfare weapons, all that stuff.
Let's hope it doesn't confuse those two.
It's called range.
At the same time, exactly.
Don't send my kid nuclear codes.
Right. Stephen, it is always a pleasure having you on. Yeah, thank you so much. Stephen Miano, again, our tech expert, friend of the show. That does it for another episode of Morning Edition. And guess what? If you don't want to listen to the whole thing, you can probably upload it to AI and give you a summary of what we talked about. And that's it right there. We'll catch you next time, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.